Irrelevant of which blockchain you believe in, for the most part, we share a common goal and want to see the mass adoption of this technology, with all the benefits that come thereafter, realised. The blockchain space in its current form is as a direct result of the way we think. The route it has taken and path it continues to follow can only be changed if we change our thinking. This requires vision, determination and patience. But a drastic change in thinking is often met with fierce opposition. We've seen this with IOG, big thinkers, big vision and major opposition. But despite this, the research continues, development increases, and this new way of thinking remains consistent, never deviating from its principles and becoming more powerful in its conviction with each passing day. When it comes to Cardano, this change in thinking is apparent, big brain is evident, the results so obvious, inevitability so clear, and adoption strategy unmatched. Yet still for many, the refusal to accept change takes over, destroying any hope for them to realise that there might just be a different way of playing this game. Welcome back for today's instalment of Cardano Insights, where we track the all-important developments at the very pulse of Cardano and its ecosystem each weekday. So let's get straight into it. So first up today, we have a great example that I think provides us an insight to input-output's core values in considering the wider crypto space as a whole, and in some ways demonstrates something I always stand by, that when it comes to Cardano's mission, the success or failure of its competitors or other blockchains is not something that's going to impact Cardano's success. It's on a completely different path, and as a result, in control of its own destiny. If anything, input-output's contribution to the entire crypto space when it comes to the research papers and its open source approach to code and solutions should get far more credit than it currently does. You may remember I covered in a previous video input-output's proof of useful work paper Ofelimos. Well, yesterday evening Charles gave us a reminder that next week he, along with chief scientist and others from the team, will be heading to Crypto, the most prestigious cryptography conference in the world, to present or unveil this paper, of which he described as a phenomenal piece of work. What I found interesting about this Charles update was the way that he likened Team Orange's view on proof of work, that's Team Bitcoin, is somewhat similar to the divide we see in politics. No matter how hard you try it, even with academic peer-reviewed papers, the idea that proof of work could become useful proof of work is an impossibility in their minds. Similarly, we see this same dogmatic approach in politics, where the divide is so vast that irrelevant of facts, opinions have been ingrained so deep through constant propaganda, destroying the ability for many to accept new ideas, even if they are ones that provide huge benefits. So in this video, Charles explained that when he first joined the crypto space, he was told proof of work could never be useful. But after researching proof of work and Bitcoin, the first thought he had was that it makes sense to make the puzzles useful for something so that we're not just wasting electricity, but can create a marketplace for decentralized computation. But Team Orange claimed this was impossible, and proof of work is only meant to be done one way. Several years down the road, and here we have it, Ofelimos proof of useful work is born, and will now be presented at the most prestigious cryptography conference as an accepted paper. An extremely complicated and difficult paper to write that could make Bitcoin far more valuable, useful, and goes a long way to alleviate many of the energy concerns currently surrounding proof of work. Much like many of the research papers in innovation pioneered by input-output that's already been utilised by other blockchains, all the effort, time and expertise that's gone into the cryptographic research and also the tech behind Cardano itself can be used by anyone who chooses to implement it. In a world where competition is fierce, I think this demonstrates very well that Cardano and input-output cares for the progression of the entire space as a whole, way beyond what we see amongst the other layer 1 blockchains. But this extends further than just research papers in tech. Think about Charles, his contribution and commitment to reaching a fair outcome with regards to the ongoing regulatory concerns. His efforts in creating meaningful dialogue with Congress is unmatched, representing not Cardano but the entire space. Think about the lab set up by IOG at the University of Edinburgh to form the Decentralization Index. This is going to take the space forward leaps and bounds. When clarity is formed regarding how to measure this vital metric, this not only improves transparency, but through benchmarking, will enable the entire space to become more decentralized. Charles, IOG and large parts of the Cardano community truly are contributing to realise a better blockchain ecosystem. And this is a refreshing approach when you consider the cutthroat, ultra-competitive nature that flows through large parts of the blockchain industry. When you reflect on both Cardano's approach to its own development and its positive contribution blockchain-wide, these are extremely telling signs that the vision and strategy is so well thought out that it's placing itself in the best position to stand the test of time. I think this also backs up my view that Cardano is playing a completely different game. The fact that IOG promotes the idea of other chains using their research and technology demonstrates that despite how this can make others in the space stronger, the path Cardano is on, and the mission it's determined to complete, is solely dependent on its own actions, as what Cardano is delivering, in my opinion, exceeds above and beyond anything else being attempted elsewhere. The inevitability of Cardano will be as a result of the roadmap being delivered, and all of us that form the community continuing to play our part. Now, with research papers in mind, you may have noticed the number of papers recently being added to the IOHK library has increased considerably. I think the last time I checked there was about 145. As you can see here, with the addition of several recent papers, the total is now 151. This is pretty significant when you consider the amount of time, resource and expertise that goes into publishing of these papers. It's this very work that forms the basis of all the technology behind Cardano. One of which that was recently published is Kachina, developed by IOG in collaboration with the University of Edinburgh. Kachina enables users to achieve privacy-preserving and general-purpose smart contract functionality without sacrificing decentralization characteristics. The transparency and public settings of most smart contract ledgers make contract conditions visible to everyone. While transparency is one of the strongest advantages of blockchain technology, privacy remains essential for applications working with sensitive data. Kachina identifies a large class of distributed computations expressible as smart contracts with privacy guarantees, which developers can implement without additional trust assumptions. Whilst the proposed design at this stage is mostly theoretical, Kachina proves the possibility of creating privacy-preserving smart contracts under real-life constraints. I've linked the full article in the description for those that want to take a deeper look. Now, I think one of the main issues that the blockchain space is faced with when it comes to the idea of mass adoption is the implementation of a clear strategy that's actually capable of achieving the onboarding of the number of users that would actually enable them to realise this goal. As a result of a short-term horizon view, fueled by the move fast approach and greed, outside of Cardano, I struggle to identify the layer 1 that has the strategy that could realistically see an active user base in the hundreds of millions or eventually billions. The problem is, for the most part, everyone wants everything here and now. Whilst that's easy if you're springing up a shady DeFi protocol overnight with pumped up TVL numbers to attract in some retail users, this has little substance or longevity, and as we've seen industry-wide, is not a model to promote wide-scale adoption. It's funny, when large parts of other communities scream, "Where's the utility, active users or builders on Cardano?" All the while, Cardano is methodically putting in place that in my view will be considered in time the greatest adoption strategy delivered in blockchain. Adoption on the scale we're looking for requires seeds to be planted and nurtured with the utmost patience. The problem here is this kind of approach rarely makes the headlines, and as a result, is lost on the majority currently involved in the space. Now, if you tuned in yesterday, you'll be aware that I covered in detail the masterclass delivered by World Mobile's Mickey Watkins, which seemingly went a long way in educating Mark Cuban on World Mobile and the fact that such a mammoth project is building on Cardano that has the strategy in place to onboard such a large sum of users. It would make World Mobile the biggest blockchain project to date, not to mention how impactful its utility is going to be from a humanity perspective. But his education went further than World Mobile. I thought I'd also bring this to your attention as it goes a long way in demonstrating my point that the real mass adoption strategies being implemented by Cardano are in plain sight, yet for many are completely oblivious to it. So here we have this post. What does Mark Cuban know about Cardano application? Kawhi Leonard was running up and down the court in Dallas wearing New Balance tracked on Cardano, while Cuban was tweeting, "Cardano doesn't do anything." Referencing this article from 2019, states to be the first commercial partnership by IOHK, where fans can record ownership of their box-fresh Omnis, trainers or sneakers, on the blockchain, guaranteeing authenticity. Mark responded, "Would love to see how I can look up the provenance of some New Balance sneakers. Can you send me a link so I can tell which shoes are real?" In an attempt to provide Mark with more commercial partnerships, this post to SpaceApe kindly provided him with the details of the Dish partnership and also slipped in the partnership with the Ethiopian Education Ministry. Mark replied, "Cool, there should be lots of stories and pictures of kids and educators in Ethiopia. Can you point me to those post-implementation reports?" To which he was provided the latest update from John O'Connor, which to his credit he must have watched, responding, "Which is amazing, that was 12 weeks ago. He said the rollout would be in process for more than a month now. Usually there are some sort of recognition of the first implementation, videos, politicians taking credit. Can you send me a link? I've only seen things from employees. Again, this kind poster provided both the Ethiopian embassy and ambassador tweeting about the partnership. But it was IOG's John O'Connor who really provided a great response to, in Mark's view, the lack of PR. He said, "Hi Mark, I get why you're skeptical, I'm a skeptic too. Technology provision, though, isn't done in Ethiopia through PR. The IT company that wins every contract with the government, until us, has almost no online presence. I'm happy to fly and host you here if you'd like to learn more. Also happy to introduce you to our government counterparts to talk to them directly, but don't expect to do this over Zoom. There's a reason why I live in East Africa. Ask any Habesha in Virginia. They'll agree you'll need to fly over. It's amazing that someone who had such a critical view on Cardano, its innovation and utility, wasn't aware until now about all the work being carried out in the developing world by IOG and World Mobile." So I guess this leads me to my point. For many, unless they see a huge social presence or massive PR campaign, they find it difficult to understand the bigger picture, and in turn, this creates the idea that from an adoption or business perspective, there must be little value to be extracted from those deals. From an adoption perspective, the strategy being implemented by Cardano and World Mobile in the developing world is not dependent on PR, but the systems or technology actually being rolled out. When successful, I'm sure it's going to be covered worldwide, as it's truly going to be a monumental achievement for mankind. You can choose to remain ignorant to what is occurring here, and for many, remaining short-sighted is really going to come back to bite them in the long run. Whilst the focus on the developing world is a long game, in terms of blockchain adoption, it seems the most viable, realistic, and in fact fastest route to this eventuality is indeed focusing on the billions around the world that can most benefit from the technology and are most receptive to the idea of implementing these systems. So that's it for today's installment of Cardano Insights, as we keep track of all the developments and continue to spread those positive Cardano vibes. If you found value in the content, then please do be sure to comment, share, like, and subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate all the support. We'll be back tomorrow with your daily roundup, and until then, thanks for watching, have a great day, and as always, keep it Cardano.